Okay, so in this episode, what I'm really going to do is show you a future marketing playbook, and I'm going to show you just a little example of it so you can start to see and get an idea of where marketing is going because of AI. We have spent a lot of time talking about how marketing is being disrupted, how Google is changing, how a lot of that search traffic is going to AI chat. We just did a really great episode on AI search optimization, but no one is really talking about, well, what are the new playbooks? What can we actually do differently because we have AI as marketers? And one of the things I want to show you is a potential new playbook, and I'm going to demonstrate it through Perplexity Labs, which is an incredible tool and not something we've got to show off as much on this podcast that we're going to show a lot more of in future podcasts. So what is a micro audience? We know that marketing is changing. We know that Google search traffic is disappearing, but no one has given us the new marketing playbooks. Well, I am deep in the labs, and I really do mean that. I'm deep in Perplexity Labs, and what I'm going to show you is a potential new marketing playbook that can create you a bunch of money using just Perplexity Labs. I'm going to show you how we can turn Perplexity Labs into an incredible marketing colleague that can actually help you extract more money from your audience. And who wouldn't want to do that? Right. So we have not focused that much on Perplexity Labs on this podcast, this YouTube channel to date. That's all going to change. I'm kind of obsessed with Perplexity Labs. And what I want to do is show you a potential new marketing playbook that I believe is going to be one of the future staples of how we do marketing in the future. We're going to do it all through Perplexity Labs with a little help from Claude. We've got 3 core steps, and it's all really focused around how I believe we are going to change from marketing to a broad set of people, which we generally call in B2B marketing your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Who is the ideal customer that would actually buy your products and services? And this is a representation of your customer, fictional representation of your customer, and usually includes a broad swath of people who could all have some sort of interest in your product or service because it solves a core pain point for them. That typically has how we do marketing. We create content for them, we create ads for them, and it's quite broad because we have to hire a bunch of marketers to market to that audience. Now, the thing that AI allows you to do is to market to what I call micro versions of that audience in a more personalized way. And I think this is a very new thing for marketing because AI empowers us to actually scale beyond what we've been able to do in the past. So this concept is really all around how we can do micro audience marketing and how we can do all of this through tools like Perplexity Labs. And so what I'm going to show you is how to get to this. So what is a micro audience? Let me show you. All right, this is an example of a micro audience, and we are going to build this using Claude to build a version of your ideal customer profile. So basically your ICP, which has been a staple of marketing forever. But I want to give you a Claude prompt that actually can build that for you if you don't have it, because you need it to do micro audience marketing. So your ideal customer profile, that's one prompt. You're going to get that. Then I'm going to give you a pretty killer prompt that you're going to use in Perplexity Labs to turn your ICP, your ideal customer profile, into a bunch of micro audiences like this. They're going to give you an intent signal, and we're going to talk a little bit about intent signals. I call them hunts, and I'm going to tell you why I call them hunts. But they're like a way that you can actually segment your ICP, your ideal customer profile, into many smaller audiences that allow you to do more custom and tailored marketing and more creative things to that audience. It talks about their pain points. It gives you their core hook, which in this case is the reason they would buy HubSpot. And then it gives me some suggested campaigns. We're going to take all of that information and then pass that to another Perplexity Lab prompts to be able to actually create your marketing collateral to market to these micro audiences. Now, what is Perplexity Labs? Perplexity Labs is like a workbench version of Perplexity. Okay, so Perplexity Labs is super cool. It really provides you with a little, you can create these spaces, and this space for me is all of the assistants that are helping me to do micro audiences. You'll see them down here, my previous runs with different assistants. You turn on Labs here. You have to be a Perplexity Pro user, and it allows you to actually do kind of multi-chain prompts. And so the assistant is able to do things like crawl the web and then research a PDF and then write some code to do something all to give you back your response. And I'm going to show you that in action. So it's kind of like a little marketing team working for you when you want to do the kind of stuff that I'm going to show you. It can do lots of different tasks, all from a singular prompt. And it's pretty cool UX, right? I can create these things called spaces, which are really projects in ChatGPT. I create a space. I say this is building hunts around micro audiences. I'm going to tell you what a hunt is. I've copyrighted all of this stuff, so you do not start copying and branding my stuff. This is all my stuff. I'm only joking about that. Feel free to. So I call it hunts. These are my previous ones that we're going to get into here. I was running one just right before we went on this pod to make sure it was working and really good. And so let's get into the 3 steps, right? We want to get to, hey, I want to get to my micro audience, and then I want to market to that micro audience, and I want to see why this is so much better and going to create me a lot of money, because that's what we are here to do as marketers, to create those sales. All right, so I actually have started to put these into Google Docs, and I'll show them in the assistant because they're so large. But the ICP builder, again, there's nothing that intuitive about an ICP, an ideal customer profile. You should all have them. I do want to show that the tools like Claude now and OpenAI are really good for building these, and you can refine, or even just refining what you have over time, because it has access to your internal tools and it can pair that with external data. And so what this one here does is basically say, okay, we're going to build an ideal customer profile for HubSpot, and we're going to use internal data. So you can see here I'm using Google Drive. I'm telling it to pull docs with a seed list here, which is like customer persona, win rate, case study, any of these things that exist in the file name or title. Prioritize the 10 most recently edited files because you want them to be most up to date. Then I look at external resources, things like analyst reports, things like LinkedIn jobs, things like tech stacks, things like funding signals, things like community pains. I have a couple of little like special sauce things in here, right? Like LinkedIn jobs, past 90 days, the kind of tech stack, only ones with 50 reviews, kind of the Reddit, and these kind of community threads. But it does some like figuring out of what are these external sources are the most important, how to stack rank those. And then it gives me this output format, right? And it basically says, hey, company product snapshot, the core persona, what are their success metrics, what are their typical pain points, what competitors do they use, what are differentiators, what are exclusion flags, like you think people that you definitely do not want to market because they're outside of your ICP, a bunch of things like that. And you can see if I run it in, and again, if you get this, we'll share this for sure as part of this episode. You'll get it in the comments. If you want to run that, you can change it again to your taste. Everything I share is not meant to be for copy and paste. They're meant to be for building blocks. So you kind of copy them, edit them, build on top of them. I think of AI in some ways like Lego blocks. And so you copy the things that look good and then you edit, refine to your needs. And so you can see here, it's run it. It's created this ICP. So it ran across 324 sources, internal and external, and then would create me this and basically talks about who is an ICP for HubSpot's CRM. And so it goes through the company and the product snapshot, the core buyer persona, the known success metrics. And these are important for the hunt we're about to do to create a micro audience, the typical pains, the competitors, the differentiators, like how you can differentiate for this audience, things like AI-powered automation, things like all-in-one platform. We have that. Awesome. Exclusion flags. So you can see here, it's like got some stuff in here that heavy Salesforce customization, all Salesforce is heavy customization. So you can see this got some pretty good exclusion flags. So we've got an ICP, right? I thought this feature is so boring, but I just love it that you can save all of this to a PDF. And now we are going to go and say, okay, well, we would typically go then build marketing around this ideal customer profile. Typically some email, all of these different things. And again, it's because you need to have a broad enough audience that it makes sense to hire marketers to market to them. And AI changes that. AI allows you to have a huge marketing team without ever having to hire a lot of marketers. And so you could break down these audiences into micro audiences. And so how do we do micro audiences? And so I'm going to bring up my one here that I prepared earlier. So why did I prepare these earlier? Well, because it takes 10, 20 minutes to run these because there's multiple things I'm asking it to do. Luckily, I have my little prompt. I will also make sure you have this prompt. And so what it's going to do here is create a micro audience. You are a micro audience hunter and marketer. The input is the IC template, so you want to make sure you input that. And then the output is going to be these micro audience cards that allow me to just plug in to my campaigns assistant to create my marketing collateral for. And so what it's going to do is parse the ICP. And what it does is look for the KPIs. What are the core KPIs? Because that's how it's going to aggregate them. So why did I want to go with KPIs? Because HubSpot really is a platform that helps you hit your KPIs. And so the reason you want to use it, if you're a marketer, salesperson, whatever it may be, is because it's going to make you successful. It's going to help you hit your KPIs. And at the end of the day, I see it as a way for people to get promoted, accelerate their career, because it's part of their tool set to help them be successful against those KPIs. So I actually really want the KPIs. I'm going to show you how I use them. The buyer roles, the job titles matter, the category words, the market tier, and then the differentiators. So it parses it for all of these things. And the first hunt, this hunt we're going to show as an example. I have 20 different hunts, but I want to show you one of the ones that I think is most easiest to kind of illustrate. Is the hunt is around LinkedIn job ads. And so you can start to see the power of Perplexity Labs. It first of all does this. It parses this data and stores it in these kind of variables. Then the second part is it will actually go and search the LinkedIn job ads, because what am I looking for now? Now I'm going to create a micro version of that ICP based upon companies that are trying to hire people to do the things that HubSpot can do, right? That's really, I want to make sure I emphasize that. My little micro audience, this example is I'm going to go out, I'm going to find people and companies basically that are advertising on LinkedIn that mention the KPIs that we can help you solve, right? And that's a really good audience for me to market to. So it goes out to LinkedIn. It basically starts to look for LinkedIn jobs with category words and the buyer roles. For each ad snippet, it extracts the KPI phrases. And what it's doing here is basically saying it has a bunch of KPI phrases. Now, I had a version of this that would take me 2 hours to explain, where I had different prompts, and one of the prompts would just build a seed list for the KPI phrase. Now, I don't want to get overly technical here because this is a technical thing. I want to kind of simplify it. And so I basically collapsed 6 prompts into one prompt, but it still works pretty well. And so what it's doing here is it's going to extract KPI phrases. So what do we mean by KPI phrases? If we go here, these are basically just the KPIs someone is responsible for, right? Revenue growth, sales revenue, sales productivity, which is actually one that I've started to see a lot of from our ideal customer profile. Is basically they're asking people to save time, make the workforce more productive, make the sales force more productive, which makes a sense. So it basically builds a seed list based upon this, right? It says, hey, these are a bunch of KPIs that your ICP is responsible for. I'm going to build this as a seed list, and then I'm going to look for job ads that mention that, right? Does the job ad mention they're trying to create more revenue? Does the job ad mention they're going to try to be more productive, whatever it may be? And then it tags a phrase that is a new metric if it's not in the baseline KPI. So basically, if it's not mentioned in the list, it's going to tag it as a new metric. All right, now we're going to get into the Perplexity Labs prompt. And so what am I doing here? I want to describe the prompt a little bit. So basically what the prompt is doing is it's basically creating a little assistant that's my micro audience, hunter and marketer, copyright Kieran Flanagan. It's going to input the ICP. Remember, our ICP is the ideal customer profile. And then it is going to output these micro audience cards that we are able to just input in to another assistant to run campaigns. Now, what it's doing here, and I'm going to try to explain this really simply, because this is going to show you the value of Perplexity Labs. It's going to do a bunch of different things all chained together. First of all, it parses the document. It parses this PDF that we give it and basically looks for the baseline KPIs. This is going to be important. So what is a baseline KPI? Let me explain the thought process here, and you can do whatever would work for you. What I have is the known success metrics. Like, these are the things that our ideal customer profile is usually responsible for. And so for us, it's always going to be things like pipeline. It's going to be pipeline velocity, grow the sales team, grow revenue, all of these different things. Now, one of the things I could do is create micro audiences around our known KPIs, a micro audience that's going to be clustered around people who want to grow revenue, who want to generate more pipeline, who want to improve the productivity of the sales team, whatever it may be. And so I just want to make the distinction here. I am purposely going after new rising phrases, things that we would not have thought of before that are going to be in these LinkedIn job ads that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to explain how that is. If it sounds like, what does he mean here? Don't worry, I'm going to quickly explain that. So basically, it parses out the KPIs here, parses out the buyer roles, right? We have core buyer roles in here as well. It parses out the buyer roles in the section 2, core buyer persona. It parses out the category words in section 1. It parses out the market tier in the market tier focus. Market tier, and then differentiators. So differentiators is pretty important. It's number 6. It's how you can differentiate for this audience. So it's parsed out this information, and it has that information here. Now, this is the important part. This is the hunt. How are we going to start to categorize folks into different clusters? And again, I have 20 different hunts. This is just one example of how you can do it based upon KPI, key phrases. And what it's going to do is it's going to go and look on LinkedIn. It's going to look for people that are part of your category words, which are what we are in section 1, the kind of product snapshot, company and product snapshot. It's going to look for buyer roles. So companies that are hiring these buyer roles, these job titles that we got here. And explain why it's doing that, right? It's if we can find companies that are hiring for people who would use HubSpot, that is a great audience to market to, because we know they are looking to move the needle on things that HubSpot can move the needle on, and looking to hire people that would use HubSpot. But the cool thing it's doing to create the micro audience is it's looking for KPI phrases that are specifically not in the baseline KPIs. These are the KPIs that we know our ICP is generally in charge of. And so we would usually always market to these folks. But micro audiences are how I can create smaller versions of my audience and market to them in more custom and tailored ways. In this example, what it's doing is looking for mentions of new metrics they're accountable for that we may not have seen before, right? And so how it does this is it says, okay, well, I'm starting to see this new metric these job ads are saying that isn't mentioned in your baseline KPIs. And what I'm going to do is cluster companies by the metric. So if a bunch of companies are advertising jobs against this new metric, I cluster all of them together. And then I have a simple score that is an intent and fit score. And the intent is basically clustering companies together in groups. And so if 5 or more companies all have the same metrics, they're in my high tier group, high intent group, because we found a new metric that lots of companies are talking about. And that is top of the group for me to want to go out and create some tailored marketing towards. And the fit is basically, are they SMB and mid-market? It's just employee count. Pretty self-explanatory. So to just recap on that, what are we doing here? We are basically taking our ideal customer profile. Then we are looking for companies that are advertising for our ideal job titles, right, within that customer profile. And you can see that here, the core buyer persona has different job titles. So there's a bunch of different job titles that go in there. We're looking for companies that are hiring those job titles. And then we're specifically focusing on the KPI part to create micro audiences. We are saying, hey, we want to know what new KPIs these people are being held accountable for. And I want you to split them into groups by the mention of that new KPI. And the group of companies that are all mentioning the same KPI together, that's going to be high intent, because that is a real one we want to pay attention to. There's obviously something happening there. They are all talking about this new metric. And then there's a sliding scale. So maybe only 2 companies are talking about this metric. So that's like less intent. And then we have fit. And then it outputs into this micro audience, right? It has a micro audience card format. And so you can see here, I describe it into the catchy name, because you need a marketing name. You have a signal, you have a pain, you have a hook, and you have a suggested marketing campaign that you'll run to them. And so I ran this one, and you can see it ran for some time. It went through a bunch of data, and it started to pull back a bunch of things for us. And I thought some of them were really cool. These pipeline velocity optimizers. 3 mid-market companies posted job ads in the last 45 days. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this 45 days because it's important in how you can actually move the range in terms of how many companies you want to come back. And they talked about lead prioritization and pipeline velocity. I'm drowning in unqualified leads, and my sales pipeline moves too slowly, causing missed revenue targets. And so it has a hook on how we can solve that. And then it has a suggested campaign. talks about fit and intent. Intent is obviously 3 out of 5 because it's only 3 companies mentioned that. And that's because I've got pretty stringent parameters on how it's going to actually pull back companies. I'm going to talk about that really quickly. It talks about conversion rate maximizers. So 3 SMB and mid-market companies posted job ads in the last 45 days, mentioning lead qualification and conversion optimization. And we talk about the pain, we talk about the hook, and then we have a suggested campaign for them. And on and on it goes, attribution analytics seekers. So you can see it's done this micro audience. It started to create micro audiences around these new Ryzen KPIs that people are being held accountable for. And so that's how we create these kind of micro audiences. Now I have a bunch of micro audiences around a single hunt. So a hunt in this case is go look at job ads and use KPIs to break apart micro audiences. So I'm going to give you an example of another hunt to show you there's an infinite number of ways that you can actually do this. And so what do we do then? Well, then we actually just want to create a marketing kit for that audience. And so you can see here, we're going to use Perplexity Labs again, and we have a multi-channel campaign kit. So we have the cluster name, we have the top KPI. So we're going to go after one of the audiences, the micro audiences. We're going to go after the very top one because that has the best fit and intent. As a reminder, that is this. It is micro audience, pipeline velocity optimizers, and we are going to go after this one and create a campaign around it. So we have our cluster name. We have what is the top KPI. So remember, this was the Ryzen KPI that was not in our baseline of KPIs. We have cluster, which is only 3 mid-market companies. I'm going to show you how you can make this many, many more. We talk about the core pain. We talk about the hook. We talk about the CTA, book a pipeline velocity assessment. And then you can see here, we tell Perplexity to create a snapshot using firmographics, the tech stack overlap, 1-line common pain summary. So it does like a little cluster snapshot of the micro audience. Talk a little bit about the target and CSV. Then this is the meat of it, which is the campaign assets. So you can change this out for what would work for you. And this is just an example. We're showing it will create a LinkedIn carousel. It will create an email sequence. It will create a landing page wireframe, because we can hypothesize in the future that you will create microsites for all of your micro audiences, right? Each one of them will come to our website specifically designed for that micro audience need. And then we're going to create a 30-second video script in LinkedIn or TikTok. We can ask it to recommend budget and tell us how to do this, give it a little bit of formatting. And so in that way, I simply pass my micro audience to Perplexity Labs. And because it's able to stitch all of these things together, it starts to run that campaign for me. So it talks about the cluster snapshot. It says they on average have 250 to 350 average headcount. Headquarters are in tech-forward regions like they're in New York, Dallas, Houston, primarily B2C funding because we went and asked it to go to Crunchbase. Look at this, tech overlap, Salesforce CRM, considering alternatives, HubSpot Marketing Hub, Outreach Sales Loft, so we can start to get an idea of their tech stack. Common pain, which is kind of pretty cool. This is your targeting CSV. This is actually for uploading into ad platforms. And so you can upload a CSV of companies to target. I think it's 300. So this is just, again, for demo purposes. These are your campaign assets. So it creates your different LinkedIn carousel ads. Now, what I would say is if I was doing this for real, I would have a separate prompt per campaign asset. When you try to stitch in multiple, as a little tip for you all, when you try to stitch in multiple asks, like create this asset, and this asset, it will not do a good job. Creating the assets is a whole other show, but I want to give you an example of how you use a micro audience with AI to create a full campaign. But what I will do is come back and show you how I would create the campaign and up-level what you see here, because I would actually have a specific prompt per campaign asset, along with a style, how to create something pretty amazing. It still does a pretty good job. It creates a LinkedIn carousel, has card 1, card 2, card 3, talks about your pain point, understands the cluster, understands how to market to them, creates a quick email sequence that you can send to these companies. Again, because this is a micro audience and pretty targeted, in this case, there's only like 3 companies in it, but I'm showing you how you can actually increase that. The landing page wireframe is just for illustration purposes, that you could actually have it build out a prompt to actually create a microsite for each micro audience. So you can imagine you would direct each micro audience to a specific site just for them. And because you can use tools like Replit, Lovable, all of these tools to easily create websites, it can make a lot of sense. with AI, whereas before it wouldn't have. And then you can actually create this video script. And if I was doing this, I would create a video script, plug it into VO3, and I would have my video assets for these micro audiences. So this is an example where I take a micro audience card, I can plug it into an AI assistant. Perplexity Labs in this one-shot prompt did a pretty good example. I'll come back with another episode and show you how you can use a micro audience and have a campaign agent probably do something maybe much better than you see on this screen, because I'm going to teach it how to do each individual campaign asset. But again, I think if I'm starting out and I want to start to create some real revenue for my company, this is good enough for me to actually start to go and do some stuff for. Recommend some channel mix, recommends how you use your budget. Again, this is for illustration purposes. You can actually put some stuff in here around context of your company. What is my budget? All of that stuff will actually help it give you some better recommendations. Now, why do I keep saying pay attention to the 45 days? Because if I want to change how broad this will go, if you want to change how broad it will go, I have a rule that it's looking for companies that have posted on LinkedIn in the last 45 days, those jobs. So you could obviously go back 90 days, 180 days. It will give you a bigger group of companies. So you can change that from 45 days to 90 days to 180 days. A whole year would actually give you a lot more companies. And then you could actually change your seed list, right? You can, and the amount of KPI key phrases, you could actually tell it to go after. You can tell it to return the new KPI seed list. And I've done that. I basically say, hey, like, give me all of the new ones that you found. And then I look at them and I basically say to them, okay, take that seed list and go out and find another like 15, 20 KPIs in these job ads that would fit into that cluster of seed phrases. So I could go then from like 15 new KPIs to 30 to 45 to 60. The new KPI phrases, the more companies it can go after that has mentioned those and cluster them together and say, hey, here's a new phrase that was mentioned by 2 companies. Here's another one that was mentioned by 3. Here's another one mentioned by 4. Here's another one mentioned by 5 or 20 companies, right? And so you can go after more companies in that way. So the number of days since the job ad has been posted and the number of key phrases in that seed list, these kind of KPIs. So to give you a quick example, this is only one, right? So again, micro audiences, one, you could have hundreds. And so this is another example, which I call kind of stack synergy signals. And what it would do is find firms that have 2 complementary tools. Let's say I know that companies that use HubSpot have Calendly and Slack, but no HubSpot. I could use that to do a micro audience on just companies that have Calendly and Slack and no HubSpot. And this here would go out and start to create that micro audience for me. And the reason you do this is because you can start to tailor all of your marketing specifically for that micro audience. So for me, if I know that these people they're in charge of these new KPIs that we don't really market to today, we don't say, hey, we can help you do A, B, or C. We're talking about a bunch of other KPIs that our audience have had forever. We're able to tailor our content to say, we can help you with those KPIs. I'm able to tailor my outreach to say, HubSpot can help you with those KPIs. I'm able to create much more video content for them to show how you would help with those KPIs. And so again, this is the beauty of micro audiences, is because of AI, because I can have Perplexity go create the micro audience, because I can have AI start to create all of the campaign assets for the micro audiences, I can actually go out and do much more tailored marketing at scale. So instead of having AI replace the human and create the video asset for me, I can have human plus AI create 100 videos for 100 micro audiences versus how it works today. Create one video for a broad ICP, your ideal customer profile. So your ideal customer profile is your foundational audience, and you break that into micro audiences, and then you use AI to personalize your marketing to those micro audiences. Hopefully this illustrates a couple of things. There is going to be new ways of doing marketing that AI is going to enable. It shows you some of the awesomeness around Perplexity Labs, and we'll show you more in future shows because I love it. And trying to give you solutions, not problems. Yes, we know search is being disrupted, but hey, there's a ton of upside in all of the things that we can start to do with AI. So that's this episode of Marketing Against the Grain. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too hard to follow. I did try to distill it down, make it as simple as I could. And if you like these kind of new playbooks, believe me, deep in the lab, there's a lot more to come. So do stay tuned and subscribe to that channel.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.